Hello and welcome to the next YouTube video on my channel. If you want to get better at chess, then this video is just right for you. In this video I'm going to talk about the very strong Pirc defense. I will show you how the defense begins and explain you the many different continuation variations of it. So let's get started. The Pirc defense is named after the Slovenian chess grandmaster Vasja Pirc. It begins with pawns e4, d6, then pawn d4, knight f6, knight c3, and finally pawn g6. These three moves are the key or the main moves of the Pirc defense. This defense is a modern opening and a response to White's e4 pawn here. Black gives up the center of the chessboard and refuses to fill it with pawns, but instead builds up slowly with defensive moves like pawn d6 and pawn g6 later. So in most of the cases, the white army will continue now with the Austrian attack. So that's pawn f4. This is also white's most aggressive move against the Pirc defense. This attack was also one of Fischer's most favorite attacks. Here, black can now answer with bishop g7, and then white continues with knight f3. So, with this move, in placing the pawns on d4, e4, and f4, the white army establishes a very strong center, intending to push in the center of the chessboard and attack the black army on the king side here of the chessboard. In the main line, black will usually continue now with pawn e5, but there are also many other options now how to answer on white's move with the knight on f3. For example, the short castling here is played pretty often now. With this move, the black king escapes from white's attack here in the center of the chessboard, so there are no immediate threats against him right now. The most frequently move that is played here in this position now is bishop d3, and then in most of the cases, the black army will answer now with knight c6, leading into the vice variation. But another option, instead of the short castling after knight f3 here, would be to play pawn c5. So black strikes at the center of the chessboard now, before white can make any move with it. Now I come to the second continuation variation after the first three key moves of the Pirc defense, and that's the classical two-knight system with knight f3. From here now, the continuation is actually pretty the same as in the Austrian attack. So here, both armies give now free the way for the short castling, so black plays bishop g7 and white plays bishop e2, and then both armies do here the short castling. So we can see that when you're playing the white chess pieces here, you're choosing the classical pawn center here on the chessboard, and if you're playing the black chess pieces, then you build up a very strong defensive structure here in the right upper corner of the chessboard. So these two continuations were the ones that I played the most after the first three key moves or main moves of the Pirc defense. And right now I will show you some other systems of the Pirc defense that are also pretty interesting. For example, here, bishop g5. Here the black army of course has the option to play again bishop g7 with the idea to play the short castling like that after, but here the move pawn c6 is actually considered more flexible. So here, because of this move here, the black army saves the tempo in the anticipation of white's plan to play queen d2 with the idea to play bishop h6 after. Another system or option how to continue after the key moves would be bishop e2. This move may transpose into the classical system with the two knights after the black army has answered with bishop g7 and you have played knight f3. But here you can also play some aggressive lines. For example, the bayonet attack with pawn h5, with pawn h4, or the Chinese variation with pawn g4. But now I would like to show you some early deviations of the Pirc defense. Example, after pawn e4, pawn d6, pawn d4, knight f6, and knight c3, an alternative to the main line, so pawn g6 would be for the black army to play here now pawn c6. This system is either called the Pirc system or the Czech defense. So this line actually very often transposed back in the Pirc defense after the black army has played pawn g6 later in this chess game. But here the black army often later also plays queen a5 or pawn e5, but another option would be to play later pawn b5 to expand more here on the queen side of the chessboard. Another pretty common deviation would be now not to play pawn g6 or pawn c6, but rather very aggressive here in the center of the chessboard with pawn e5. Because in the other variations of the Pirc defense, which I've shown you in this video, the black army often plays very passive and defensive. But now in this variation, they can also attack the center of the chessboard and here also the white army. So this deviation has actually been tried out and studied by many different chess grandmasters in the last years, like for example the French chess grandmaster Christian Bauer. Here white can either now transpose into the Philidor defense with knight f3, or they take out your pawn on e5 with their own pawn here from d4. This system or this deviation now often continues with black also taking out your pawn on e5. Now both armies trade their queens. So you take out black's queen on d8, and with this move you leave the black army without the castling anymore in this game, because here the black king is forced to take out your queen here on d8. And now this line ends up with both armies developing their bishops. So first you here on c4, and then black on black here on e6, and then you trade the bishops. So you take out with your bishop black's bishop out, and black takes here your bishop out with his pawn. That was it already with this video about the very interesting Pirc defense. I hope that you liked this video. If you liked it, feel free to leave a like there and subscribe to my YouTube channel. Till next time, bye!